Hello, everybody. This is another episode of the SLTD Going Over Big Time podcast. I am the Fantastic, also known as Alan, and I'm joined by my friend Mike. And we are here today to talk about the, um, I guess, surprising to some, but unexpected return of CM Punk to WWE. Yeah, hell really has frozen over because many of us never thought that would ever happen. I mean, the other thing we thought would never happen was CM Punk going back into wrestling, but that happened a few years ago in AEW, and it's been well documented what has happened with him in that company. So, Mike, what do you think so far? I mean, I guess we should all focus on just what happened at Survivor Series, right at the end when the War Games match for the men concluded, and then we saw the color tag indicating the show was about to go off air. Suddenly we hear the a somewhat modified version of Cult of Personality, and then the crowd going nuts. And then he walks out, looking a little bit slimmer, a bit more hair on the top, I would say. But there he was, CM Punk. Almost a decade since he left that company, he is right back on stage.
Yeah. So you'll have to forgive me because I'm getting over a cold, so I might sound a
Hmm.
little whatever. But um, yeah. So reports going into Survivor Series, obviously, people were speculating for months that CM Punk would be at Survivor Series because of everything that happened with him in AEW and the getting fired with cause and not having a no compete or whatever. Um, but reports would tell us that there wasn't even an open line between CM Punk and WWE until the week of Survivor Series. He literally didn't even talk to Triple H until like the Monday before. And that's when this started to become more likely. And I think, going into it on the Raw right before Survivor Series, obviously tried to make us believe that it's not possible because everybody thought that he was going to be on Cody's Survivor Series team, and then they kind of tried to deflect by basically confirming that that was Randy Orton, who also returned on this show, but was kind of overshadowed, obviously. I mean, Randy Orton didn't disappear for a decade. He's just been injured for 18 months. So yeah, they did the Triple H special, which is signature on the screen, and then something else happens, and that something else was CM Punk returning to WWE for the first time since January of 2014, and yeah, he did basically what he does. Like, it was the same deal when he first came back to wrestling in AEW. He showed up, he acknowledged like people in the crowd, he hugged a couple of people that he didn't know, and yeah, he just looked at the ring. And I mean, the story of that night in particular was everything that happened when they went off the air, because it's been well documented that there are a lot of people in wrestling in general, but also in WWE, who are not big fans of him. You're muted.
So yeah, sorry. We got two interesting clips of people posted on social media. Of one reaction was from Seth Rollins, and the other was from Drew McIntyre. Now, the one from
Yes.
Drew McIntyre, people have, I think, have shown that Drew kind of stormed out of the War Games structure before CM Punk appeared.
Yeah.
So originally, people had thought he was reacting to CM Punk. So that is, I don't think that's what the case was at that point. So I'm not gonna say that Drew stormed out because of CM Punk. What was more interesting was the reaction from our world heavyweight champion, Seth Rollins, was just he was incensed is the best word I can diplomatically describe it. He was just yelling.
Uh,
He was just saying "f you," and he was just he had to be held back by of all people, Michael Cole, Cody Rhodes, Corey Graves, um, made the
yeah,
thing look all. And then I just thought it was really interesting the fact that Randy Orton and Damian Priest and Dominic were just hanging around inside the ring.
yeah,
Randy grabbed a chair and just sat down.
yeah,
Well, Damien and Dom were just right next to him, just looking like, "What's going on?
yeah.
What's going
There
on?"
was a few clips that came from that. Yes. So Randy Orton was in the ring and he just sat down in a chair. Um, Rhea Ripley was on the outside of the ring talking to Dominic, and when he went to do the clobbering time thing, she mocked that and then flipped him off. Um, Damian Priest didn't do anything; he just kind of stood there. Um, and yeah, Seth Rollins. So of course, there was speculation after everything that we had heard previously about Seth Rollins doing interviews and calling CM Punk a cancer, that that reaction was real. Um, but going off of that night and into like the following Raw, which we'll get into, a lot of people started to speculate that Seth was just doing his job, which is to build to a eventual match, because everybody already knows that Seth is not a fan of CM Punk.
Was that clip of him saying he was a cancer after Punk was let go following All In, or
I don't recall when exactly it took place and if he was still in AEW at the time, but
yeah,
most likely he was gone.
okay.
Um, but yeah, Drew supposedly had. I mean, Drew's got a lot going on right now with being in a contract year and still hasn't signed a new deal. And it's been documented that he's not the biggest fan of CM Punk either, but not to the level of Seth. So a lot of people believe that he kind of just left on his own accord because he didn't want to sit around in the ring and react to that, because of other things. Um, but yeah, so CM Punk made his return on that night, and that was it. And then we went into Monday Night Raw, and literally you saw on social media so many people that were saying like I think I saw this more than anything. I don't watch Raw, but I'm watching it for this. And they ended up watching the whole show,
I
waiting waiting for the ending, and they literally got nothing.
it reminds me of like stuff that there was like a charity boxing match years ago between and I'm gonna veer off from wrestling in a little bit, between the current prime minister, who at that time wasn't the prime minister, but he had some celebrity boxing match for charity. But I was forced to watch this TV station that I never watched before. And basically the match happened like right at the end in the last 10 minutes of the whole programming. So it was like that. But I guess that's also
So a
standard
better
for like a lot
a
of
better
boxing
example,
pay-per-views.
like
Yeah.
so a better example, I think, for more modern,
Yeah. He
like,
was,
so a lot of times when people go to watch like a UFC pay per view,
there you go.
you go into like a big main event, right?
Yeah.
Like this is the perfect example, right? Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo. That was a big money fight that was promoted big time. People paid to watch this fight in particular, and the fight was 15 seconds long because Conor McGregor destroyed Jose Aldo in
Oh my god.
literal seconds. And I was at a friend's house who paid for this pay per view, and I said him I told to him, I was like, I'm glad you paid for this and not me, because
Was this
I wouldn't
worth all that?
have.
Was this worth your money and our time?
So that's kind of how people felt about this Monday Night Raw following Survivor Series, because everybody and their mother watched Monday Night Raw probably for like the first time in years, just to see what CM Punk was going to say. and he literally said nothing.
So in their
And
defense, let's backtrack a little bit. So the whole Survivor Series return from Punk was almost like you. I think you mentioned it a bit earlier. Was like sort of cobbled together within the last couple of days before the pay per view, and to the point where even like actual production crew right there didn't know it was going to happen until Hunter came out and just took over the last few minutes production of the show. And then when people finally saw CM Punk waiting around backstage and making his way towards the entrance, they were like, "Oh my god!" So when you're at a point where they're like, "Oh, we didn't plan for this," so like, "Oh no, what are we gonna do for Raw? How are we gonna slot him in?" It's like, I mean, they could have, in retrospect, they could have probably done better. I would have just put him in the front of the show and then just let him give him like the first 20 minutes or something. Because
well, yeah, and there was
that
also
it was worth 20 minutes. But
there was also reports that the main event went long, which happened to be Randy Orton versus Dominic.
but you
So
gotta put in contingencies for that because like for a match, like you don't know what's gonna happen during the match. Like stuff could happen on the fly. So
yeah,
time could have been extended. But yeah, in
so
retrospect, it's like
so he makes his return to Monday Night Raw, and his first promo is basically trying to play good, I guess. He literally like
he ad
he
libbed it. He ad libbed it, I think.
he was like, I'm home, and just like all these things that CM Punk just would not say.
Somebody
And
commented that they took a look at his eyes during the whole thing, and it was like, yeah, that's not the eyes of someone saying telling the truth right now. The most truthful thing was his last sentence. I'm not here to make
yes,
friends. I'm here to make money. Which is like,
that
yes,
that was
yes,
the
you are.
only thing. That was the only thing he said that was truthful. And a lot of people soured on that promo because a lot of people, as I mentioned, only watched this show to see what he was going to say. A lot of people, I saw a lot of people on Twitter/X saying that I'm only watching this show for CM Punk. And at the end of it, going, why did I watch that show? And rightfully so. Because yeah, he said nothing of note. He lied through most of it and didn't come off as CM Punk because people are going into this. So the people that didn't watch AEW but are still CM Punk fans are going into this expecting to get CM Punk of 2011. And you're not going to get that because he's not that anymore. He is he's his name means more in wrestling now. He is the biggest name in wrestling because everybody talks about him. And he's not going to be the voice of the voiceless anymore because that is not something that we've needed recently in wrestling. We've had it. We've had it with
Yeah, we've had
multiple
it.
people.
Think about it. 2011, over 10 years ago, we didn't have options. It was just the WWE. You've had other companies, but it was really just that. Nobody else watched AEW, or people were just sort of like tuning out TNA at that point, maybe, or not. They wouldn't watch it to the extent that they are now, and there wasn't
Yeah.
anything else on the market. So, of course, you would have someone that would kind of capture that counterculture sentiment or that rebel maverick style of
Yeah.
how people are feeling.
And we no
And
longer need that. That's the
no,
problem. We no
yeah,
longer need that. But and CM Punk as a whole is like I feel like a lot of people came to that Raw in particular to see the idea of CM Punk that they remembered, not to see the CM Punk that has been through what he's been through in the last 3 years. Just talking. And not talking about anything in particular that mattered at all. So following that, the following week he is not on Raw. The following
No,
week.
because he's on SmackDown for the Tribute to the Troops
Yes.
special, which we actually got a more substantive promo from Punk because they finally
Yeah.
actually gave him some time because they put him in the middle of the show. I actually wrote
Yeah.
some notes down about that promo. It was about 10 minutes long. I'll just go through some of my notes. He kept saying y'all a lot, which I'm not sure if that was a play on just a kind of like if he was doing that just to cater to an audience. Um, hearing him say superstars is really weird, considering he was like the wrestler guy.
Yeah.
Started bringing up a bunch of names. Kind of played off on Cody's line of what do you want to talk about? Except he said like, who do you want me to talk about?
Yeah.
Maybe I should talk about someone who's never been here, someone who has caused you, Mike, to stop watching SmackDown because he's never there. Our Universal Undisputed Champion, Roman Reigns,
Uh-huh.
who is actually going to be, as of this recording, will be showing up on Friday Night SmackDown
Yes.
the coming week. And said he was the OG Paul Heyman guy. Yeah. Hey, remember, he was my wise man first.
Uh-huh.
You know, and then he's like speculating, do I stay at SmackDown and tangle with like the bloodline and an endless army of Samoans that I may have never met before? Or maybe I go over to Raw and you know, hang out with main event Jey Uso and Cody and whatever. Maybe I can fight Kevin Owens on SmackDown, or just him and I are a lot alike. I mean, apparently, but I'm not sure if I feel safe around someone who punches people randomly in the face in the backstage, and it's 2023. You can't just be punching people backstage like that. And I think that's the only line that we will hear of him alluding
Uh-huh.
to his.
Oh, and they forgot to turn on the fake crowd reaction because nobody reacted to that. Not a single person.
So I might dispute with you there because I think this audience is the WWE audience. I don't know if they
Well, that's what I'm saying.
necessarily
That,
watch I'm not a good. I don't know if a good chunk of them necessarily watch AEW. And I mean, I think they crowd tested that line and just realized, oh, nobody's reacting though. So, um, they really built this Punk return to the on the theme that he's been away 10 years. And
uh-huh.
it's like the prodigal son coming home, rather than he just left a major wrestling competitor and he's coming back
Well,
home,
that's what
right?
they always do. That's what they always
Yeah.
do, though. When Cody Rhodes came back, he wasn't wrestling elsewhere. He was just not there. That's what WWE does. They write their own narrative because they don't want to acknowledge somebody else's because they think theirs is the best.
Well,
And
I mean, with Cody, I think they did elude him somewhat. He went out and reinvented himself and that sort of thing. So, I mean, they
yeah.
did the same with Drew to a lesser extent.
And I mean, they did
Uh,
the exact same thing with Sting when Sting came in 2014. Sting hasn't wrestled in 15 years. He was in TNA the whole time. Whatever it was, the
yeah,
number. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's just that's what they do. That's what they always do.
Well, I thought but I thought the SmackDown Punk appearances did a little more to kind of build up what he's here for. I mean, he ended his promo saying he wants a main event race WrestleMania, which he
Yes.
was never able to do in his last run. So they
Yes.
had him backstage doing some run-ins with Kevin Owens and LA Knight and Randy Orton.
Hmm.
And I think I think he bumped into Cody also in the back. And
Yep.
well, that was an interesting little the two guys who just came from the other place are
Uh.
now here. And
Yeah.
if we are, if we believe the rumors that had been floated around, Cody had left AEW because of a personal issue. Some speculate it was CM Punk related, but I'm not gonna go further into that. That's just what we heard.
Uh.
Um, it's yeah, it's interesting. And Punk this coming Raw will make his decision about which brand he's gonna sign on. I didn't manage to catch NXT Deadline yet. I was
Okay.
hoping to catch
So
it. I don't know what
so I
happened.
watched it. So I
Okay.
watched it.
Okay.
So the show kicked off with Shawn Michaels coming out,
Uh-huh.
and he did DX shtick. He said, "Are you ready?" And no, I said, "Are you ready?" And that's when CM Punk comes out. And once again, he did absolutely nothing of note. They he went off. Shawn Michaels went off script and acknowledged that CM Punk was wearing a Bret Hart shirt, and said, I'm not a big fan of your shirt there, and and
I'm just looking at the WWE YouTube channel on like what the some of the highlights, and it's like Punk here looks like he's trying to take a selfie with Shawn Michaels. I'm like,
that's exactly what happened.
okay. And then
Um,
yeah.
so so CM Punk goes, "Oh, sorry, I left my Shawn Michaels hoodie at home."
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and then he goes, "Oh, I remember when I first came into the business, and I would see veterans that I was a fan of, and I would take pictures with them. Now everybody back there wants to take pictures with me because I influenced them." And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna do that too, and I'm gonna take a picture with Shawn Michaels. And
Wow.
then he's like, and this coming Monday, I'm going to announce what brand I'm going to sign for. It could be Monday Night Raw, it could be Friday Night SmackDown, or maybe NXT is going to get. And then he put the mic up for the crowd to say his name, and then he left, and that was it.
Yeah. Okay. He's not gonna go to NXT. That's very obvious.
Of course not. He's going to Monday
Um.
Night Raw. He's going to Monday Night Raw because Randy Orton went to SmackDown.
Right.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
So,
It's
um,
yeah, it would have been more surprising if they could made us a little more speculative instead of how blatantly obvious it was. I mean, I
yeah,
also heard that somewhere some people have said this is kind of like almost a it was almost similar to how Sean reinvigorated his career. Ironically, him being in the ring with him there, because around 2002, Sean came back to wrestling after having like back surgery and some sort of
yep,
like career threatening situation. So he went on to become a champion once again and had like Hall of Fame matches with like Ric Flair and the Undertaker. So
yeah. Um, so for me in general, like, so during that time when CM Punk was coming up in WWE, I was one of those people. I was a very big CM Punk fan, and I remain a CM Punk fan. But the problem is that the uh, the bloom is off the rose, as they say. It's not special anymore. Um, the special was him coming back to wrestling in general, and he did that in AEW.
yeah, yeah,
It's not special that he's back in WWE because Vince is gone, because everything that happened in AEW happened, and now he only gets that big reaction in Chicago. He doesn't get the reaction that he was getting when he first came back to AEW, because majority of the fans that still watch that are watching WWE are either casual fans who didn't watch in 2011 to 2014, or um, everybody that liked him before doesn't watch WWE anymore because they have an alternative that, in their eyes, is a better product.
yeah. That's true. I mean, you mentioned Vince McMahon. I mean, it would be like if Steve Austin left for a time, and I mean, for a time he did, but he wasn't this long. And then he came back in character, and Vince was no longer there. Therefore you lost the kind of antagonist that his character would have been there to like galvanize and feud with.
Uh huh.
Punk comes back now. with no Vince, I mean, he's kind of patched things up with Triple H to the extent that I understand that they would have patched up. And Triple
Yeah.
H is mostly moving along the product and treating wrestlers exactly what Punk had been saying back 10 years ago, that they should be treat them like human beings, at least. Don't fire them on their wedding day, stuff like that. And don't, like,
Uh-huh.
actually, like, stop, like, just catering to your own personal obsessions, right?
Yeah.
You've lost that antagonist because he's no longer involved. So it's like, he moves into an era where he just has to, like, what we're expecting is like decent CM Punk storyline, good CM Punk storylines, and good feuds with, like, gotta be something involved with Paul Heyman at some point. That's a
Yeah.
no brainer.
Of
Seth
course.
Seth thing, that's already in the books. Like, who else? I mean, Nakamura. He's never faced Nakamura before, as far as I know. Hasn't faced
Yep.
Cody, Jey Uso. Um, a
This
lot of
AJ Styles, I mean, he
AJ
hasn't.
Styles. Like, when AJ recovers from whatever, the injury that he had a few months ago, where, like, people would be clamoring to see an AJ
Yeah,
Styles.
he hasn't had a match with AJ Styles in 18 years.
Yeah,
So that would be something that people would want to see, and I understand all of that. And like I said, I am happy that he is back doing things in general. I just feel that it is not as special anymore as people make it out to be. And him saying that he's home is bullshit.
yeah, it's a little condescending considering we've we saw the AEW experience, and all the, like, I was just going through, like, a YouTube made documentary about basically CM Punk's AEW run. It's nothing special. It's just
Yeah,
the guy just put together clips of the feuds he had when he returned. Like the match of Darby, the feud of MJF, going after the world title against Hangman, Moxley, and then the brawl out, and then all of
yeah,
that. Yeah, the high is always going to be that second episode of Rampage in Chicago. He comes back in after 7 years of being off wrestling, a wrestling programming. It's always going to
yeah.
be that. There's nothing else to compare. You
Well,
can't try to
yeah,
replicate that.
that and the MGF feud.
Yeah, anything after
Um,
those are going to be just like sort of just a downhill, or not, like,
but
it's not gonna be bad. It's just not gonna be as good.
yeah, and it that's and the other thing is, like, he's coming back to WWE after all this time, and the problem is that WWE has changed somewhat, but not in the ways that I think he would have wanted. Because you're still going to get, like, scripted promos, or you're still going to get all this wasted time on television that could be used on people that should be getting it, but instead we're getting stupid R-Truth segments. Like, not everything has changed to the way that he wanted, and the only
Yeah,
reason the only reason that he's back is because of the money, and he would not be here if not for what happened in AEW, and that is very, very evident. Um, because if you go back and look at all the times that he had publicly said things about WWE, it was never good.
the line that stood out for me was in the ring when he's miking off with MJF. He says, "Yeah, well, you think it's greener pastures on the other side. Go ahead, go over there and be the main and be the opening act of part two of a third rate pay per view." I'm like,
He
oh my,
said to be the main event of a night for buy one get one free special or something like that.
yeah, and it's like,
Um, yeah.
yeah, something like
So something along those lines. I don't remember the exact quotes, but yeah, and so all of that just comes off as hypocritical. All of that comes off as, like, you don't mean anything that you said on that Monday that you returned. You don't mean anything that you've said really at all since you've been back. and you're just riding the high of just people happy to see CM Punk in WWE. And I know people who are over the moon about him being back in WWE and that this is where he should have been the whole time and he never should have went to AEW. He wouldn't be in WWE if he didn't go to AEW. That's a fact. There is no way that he would have went back to WWE first, especially if Vince was still there.
Yeah. I mean, we read from you. I think you sent me the report from Fightful Select that there was a third option. He could have gone to TNA.
They
TNA.
wouldn't have been able to give him the money he wanted.
Yeah, but I think we're at a point where CM Punk, does he need the amount of money that he can make? His brand is very strong. Like, he was making money in other avenues before he even went back to wrestling. Period.
Yeah.
So I think, like, just me thinking off the top of my head here, he would have been. I think there would have been something that could have been done that gave him a third option rather than either AEW or WWE. With TNA, it was almost like a fresh slate because
Yeah.
other than like maybe a match or two back in like 2003, he was never really there that long.
You
So,
know that he
but you know
teamed with
what?
Mickey James there?
Yeah,
She,
probably.
he teamed with Mickey James there when
Oh,
she was going by a
okay.
different
But
name.
yeah, but it would have been a fresh start. You have management that are, more or less friendly and more, I would say, understanding of talent, how they want to portray themselves, and how to maximize their time when
Yeah.
they're more of a digital. I want to say, I'm not trying to be a TNA mark here, but they have like options for them to like put matches out that are not you're not necessarily like wasting their time in the back with catering. Um,
Yeah.
I guess the other option advantage is they don't always tape live, so when you can tape a bunch of stuff and then you can get your time off and do other things while your stuff gets promoted. I'm just saying this because there might have been a third option that would have been more
Yeah.
acceptable or reasonable, or maybe something that you didn't have to go to from one extreme to the other. But I guess with
Yeah.
like Punk's, just looking at the AEW history, he had such problems with like young talent or new talent or like EVPs who are also wrestlers apparently.
It's
But in
it's really
Impact,
funny.
yeah. But I guess in
It's
TNA that wasn't the case. It was more which would have been ironic because TNA just got rights to stream their stuff on Endeavor, which is also owns WWE at this point. So,
yeah.
mm,
It's really funny if you go back and you watch CM Punk's first press conference with AEW. He said in the press conference that he was looking forward to facing the Young Bucks and Jungle Boy and Kenny Omega.
I mean,
Literally
well,
those people.
he did end up facing them. It was just not on TV.
Yeah. Um but yeah. So now he's back in WWE and people are speculating already. What is he going to be doing? He hasn't had a match yet. He hasn't set up any kind of feud. He hasn't even interacted with another wrestler on television. Um and of course I think something is going to get started on this coming Monday Night Raw where he decides what brand he is on. Um he has not mentioned the Royal Rumble at all yet. Um, but there's already people speculating that because of this return, Cody's story might be going on a little longer.
Mm,
And I don't know if that's a good idea. Um, I mean, I'm well well documented well documented on my end that
yes,
Cody should have won the title at WrestleMania 39.
yes.
And if you're going to delay that again, then Cody came back for nothing. Literally for nothing. Because this is the whole reason that he came back to win the belt. The belt that is held by the guy that is never on TV. And if you have CM Punk win the Royal Rumble after coming back for after all this time, after everything that's happened in the last 3 years, that to me is not a sign of good faith towards your fan base. That comes off to me as WrestleMania 30, for example. Dave Batista won that Royal Rumble because the plan was Randy Orton versus Batista. Nobody wanted to see that match. Not a single person wanted to see that match. And what happened? The fans hijacked the show and basically forced their hand to put Brian Danielson in that match and win that match. And I have a feeling that if you do this, have CM Punk win the Royal Rumble and go into WrestleMania and have him challenge Roman Reigns, and it will create that scenario again.
That the match that nobody wants to see.
Yes.
Well, judging from the way things are kind of started already with the promo from SmackDown, it seems like we are seeing more likely a CM Punk versus Seth Rollins.
Yes.
I feel like I still believe Cody will probably win the Rumble again for a second time in a row, and he will use that as his in to get into SmackDown and
Yeah.
face Roman Reigns in WrestleMania.
Yes. Because I think
Why?
it's safe
Yeah,
to say
yeah,
The Rock is not going to be at WrestleMania.
yeah. I'm not hearing anything that indicates otherwise. The other random scenario I can envision, and this would probably just break everybody's mind, is like if Punk and Cody end up as the last two entrants from the Rumble and they face off. Um, and then for some reason they do a thing where both their feet touch the floor at the same time.
Uh-huh.
Um, Most likely, we think they'll do is like restart the match or have like a
A,
subsequent match, and the winner becomes the true winner. But what if they just
a
randomly,
Brett Luger situation?
yeah? What if they just do like a fuck it, like a co winners of the Rumble, and they both get a
Uh-huh.
title shot,
I
and then
mean
we just solve the problem right there. It's like, hey, you both won the Royal
well,
Rumble, you
if
both
that
get
was the
the
case,
shot.
I would just have them face two separate champions, because at least you would have that option.
No, that's my point is. I think um, if they both won the Rumble because their feet touch the floor at the same time, then CM Punk
Yeah.
gets his shot at the World Heavyweight Championship,
Uh-huh.
and Cody gets his shot at well, I think they'll do a thing where they give the choice to which champion they'll choose, and
Yeah.
I think Cody will obviously pick the one that we are all thinking he should. So
Yeah. Well, at this point, if they aren't facing each other anytime soon, Seth's match at Mania has to be CM Punk.
yeah,
It has to be. That's the match. That's like based on everything that has happened in the past month alone. That's the match that people want to see CM Punk have right now.
hmm
Everybody and as we've been saying for forever, Cody needs to win this belt off of Roman and just get it over with, because there's no more time after this to do it. It has to happen. You can't delay this anymore. You just can't, because Cody's literally been doing nothing since last year's WrestleMania.
yeah.
Literally, he's just been injected in other people's things all year.
Well he basically spent like better part of 2023 fighting off Brock Lesnar, and then
Yeah.
since Lesnar, there's been almost nothing other than being involved with War Games, and now he's got a feud with Nakamura to wrap up.
A
Who
feud
knows?
with Nakamura where he will win every match.
Yeah, and there's no
Which,
and there's no pay per view and from all of December until like the Rumble. So it's like
yeah,
are we gonna be seeing a couple of these on every Raw coming in the next few weeks? I don't know. I mean, we've got the holiday season coming up, so they'll probably
Well,
do Christmas.
holiday week, there's no shows at
Yeah,
all.
they're likely taping a bunch of stuff and then putting it on. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's hard to say like CM Punk and just being injected into things just because he's CM Punk creates a narrative that hurts all the other storylines. I mean, again, I'm happy that he's back, but it's just that like if Cody does not face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania and wins, then there is no reason for Cody to ever be the champion because there's no other way to capitalize on that story as a whole. Since the day that Cody came back to WWE, all he has said is that I want that belt that my father was that was taken away from my father, and I want to win it for him, and not just for him, but for me to uh, solidify my status. That's it. There's no other person that should be facing Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Whether you like what Cody's been doing in the past year or not. I don't care for the fact that he has to have some kind of adversity in every single feud. I don't like the fact that because he wrestled Seth in Hell in a Cell with a legitimate torn pectoral that he has to be injured into every single feud that he has. But that's the story. There is no other story. So have Seth versus CM Punk and have Cody versus Roman. And if you want those to be your main events of both nights, then go ahead and do it. I would argue that I think I think other people would argue that Becky versus Rhea would probably deserve a main event because that seems like where they're going. But if CM Punk comes back and doesn't get a main event at WrestleMania in the first year,
yeah.
watch him try to quit again.
Okay, and then yeah, that's gonna disappoint the people who were hoping for an AJ Lee return as well. So
Yeah, sure.
yeah,
But yeah, and I think I think we could add this into like this topic as
sure.
so so I've been seeing and again there's a lot of trolling on the internet, a lot of it, but there's also a lot of people that actually believe this to be true. There are a lot of people that seem to think that AEW is dead in the water because CM Punk is no longer there.
Yeah, just so happened I was
That
listening to Sean Ross Sapp and Jimmy Van do a little chat about that couple days ago.
yeah, and that is just so far from the truth. I mean, AEW is in itself a billion-dollar company that is on the verge of breaking into the positive. They had the biggest show in wrestling history this past August and are looking to do it again this coming August.
Yeah,
AEW is on the upward trajectory that they haven't been in a while. And for the most part, everything that's going on in AEW is mostly positive. The
right.
Continental Classic has rejuvenated the fans' interest. The women are finally starting to get more storylines and more they might not be getting the promo time that they deserve, but that's just another thing you have to add to the list to improve on. But AEW is not going anywhere. And the number of people that think that it is mind-bogglingly high.
Most likely people who call themselves WWE stockholders, or whether that's true or not. But yeah, I do agree. There are specific people, and we won't get into them here, that
No.
are just like I don't understand where this mentality is coming from. Like, I mean, you go and say like one thing about WWE, and then it's like when the same kind of stuff happens on AEW, you like just pour on the vitriol, and it's just like I don't get it. Um, yeah, you mentioned like AEW is not like I mean, I'm sure like the vision for Collision in the beginning was it was supposed to be Punk, sort of be the highlight of the show, but it got to a point where it was almost from the way it was being produced, it was more like just unless CM Punk likes you, you can go on the you can go on the show. Almost became like a silo for Punk within AEW, and I'm not sure how
Yes,
healthy that would have been.
it
Since
wasn't.
then, it's like okay. At first, I thought it was gonna be Brian Danielson that becomes the sort of like person that that show is revolved around, but it's kind of like almost pivoted away to being just more somebody else. I don't know, maybe Adam Copeland. I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
from hearing what I heard, that Danielson is now taking more of a role in terms of being, I guess, the head of the disciplinary committee and actually has the ability to issue fines for unruly behavior. It's like
Uh,
that's so hilarious to me when I first heard about that. And it's like
well,
the guy who powered the Yes movement is now, in essence, an authority figure within the wrestling company.
yeah, and I've had this conversation with people in the past. Like, there are a lot of people that don't agree with that, but I would argue that the reason that he was put in that role is because he is a respected veteran who knows what's right for his locker room. And um you're not going to put Lee Johnson in that role.
No, it's like
No.
people are like, who the hell are you, kid?
Exactly. You're putting somebody in that role who deserves to be there. And it is very evident to me that once his full-time career is over, he's going to stick with AEW and be a guy that is going to be there to help mold the future talent and then wrestle maybe twice a year or
Yeah,
something.
I can definitely see that similar role being taken up by guys like FTR or Adam Copeland. And I
Yes.
feel like Adam Copeland actually um, has been a better veteran that they brought in that would be more beneficial to talent than CM Punk would have been. Not that I'm saying that Punk wasn't trying to fill that role for a lot of the guys there. Like there are probably numerous talent that are still there that probably would credit Punk for
Yeah.
helping them in certain aspects of their careers. But
Oh,
I
of
think
course.
with Adam Copeland, with his decades of experience in the ring and in the business, would provide a much more and a much he also has a much more, I would say, calmer demeanor. I'm not just saying this because like it's a Canadian nice thing kind of thing, but it's like just somebody who's respected, who's loved, probably big,
Yeah.
people like him a lot too. That could kind of get that respect from people and like listen up when like things go south for certain people and they need to smarten up before something bad happens, and
Yeah.
finding
So
that finding that like wise guiding voice.
so the bottom line I think is like obviously there are a lot of people that are considered homers of certain companies and apologists of certain companies. But the competition is what drives the companies to do better. And I have said this before and I will say it again. AEW gives me what I want as a fan because I want more wrestling and less talking. That's just how I view my wrestling. That's how I want my wrestling to be. AEW gives me what I want. But do I want WWE to fail because of it? Absolutely not. I want WWE to grow and get better and learn from what they're doing wrong. And in some cases they do. In some cases they don't. Because if you watch that if you watch NXT weekly, which I do not, mainly for my mental health, um, there is a lot wrong on that show, and that's just something that needs to improve. Would I love for it to be good? Absolutely. Are there people out there that think it's good but aren't really paying attention? Absolutely. And that is my biggest gripe going into anything WWE is what they're doing going to matter? Is what they're doing going to make sense? And is what they're doing look like they actually give a shit? And right now, SmackDown and NXT don't have any of that at all, in my opinion, which is why I don't watch either.
Well, you did watch Deadline. I mean, did you find the
Well,
Iron?
that was
did
a
you find-
pay-per-view.
Yeah, but did you find the? How did you find the Iron? If we were gonna finish off on a couple of topics, did you find the Iron Survivor Challenge a suitable replacement for War Games?
So I get the concept.
Yeah,
All right. So it's a multi-man Iron Man match, or multi-person Iron Man match.
right.
The thing that I don't like, and I've seen a lot of people discuss this, is the intervals need to be either shorter or there needs to be more time added to the match, because you get this you pretty much get like the same concept in every match. So without like, I mean, I don't know if you care about spoilers at this point. You're gonna watch the show, but the biggest problem in both matches was the person who entered last was down, was obviously had no points, and there was only 10 minutes left in the match. So literally everybody who entered the match at that point would have points, and then that person would have to be like, "Oh, I have to get some points really quickly."
Yeah. That's
So literally what happened was the last person who entered scored like 2 falls in less than 10 seconds. In both matches.
okay.
In both matches. To make it seem like, oh, they got a shot now, but there's only 10 minutes left, so they got to go quick. That's my biggest issue with that match concept. Is I get the idea. It's, because Shawn Michaels was part of the first ever Iron Man match. He wants to have something that he could put his name on, but having 5 people in this match, and then not all of them are starting the match, and then everybody's only coming in every 5 minutes. It doesn't really it wasn't neither of the matches were bad. They just weren't like, oh my god, amazing, because it's like, okay, but now the person who comes in last just has to sprint for 10 minutes. And everybody else is either in a penalty box or for 90 seconds and can't do anything if somebody else is about to win. So there's holes, but
yeah.
I thought both of those matches as a whole were fine. So yes, I watched Deadline because it was a pay-per-view, not because like I watch all the pay-per-views regardless.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't watched weekly NXT since Becky lost the belt, and I haven't watched SmackDown in almost 2 months.
Wow.
So like I said, I would love to tune into both of those shows. I just want proof that they care, and I don't have that right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think even if CM Punk, for whatever reason, decided to sign to NXT, it wouldn't entice you to watch it any more, more than anything else at this point.
But also because there's nobody on NXT that I want to see CM
Yeah.
Punk
Well, I'm trying to
face.
remember. It's now a developmental territory, so they're trying to build new talent that they're not necessarily just to come in from an independent promotion and it's already established somewhere, like the way Danielson was.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people on NXT as a whole that I don't think they know what they're doing.
Oh.
Not that they don't know what they're doing, that the company doesn't know what they're doing with them.
So what I heard was really hilarious is that somehow the Rock's daughter, Ava Rain, went from being part of a cult group to now apparently the co-general manager, because now she's saying Shawn Michaels has declared this match will be happening. Shawn has booked this match. I'm like, why is she suddenly like giving match orders?
Yeah.
When did that?
So yeah, it's there's a lot. I would and TNA is going in the right direction. They're signing people that are helping the
Yeah.
brand.
Yes.
They're New Japan is rejuvenated to the point where like everybody is like looking forward to Wrestle Kingdom and what's going to happen there. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of wrestling out there, and I watch whatever I can and whenever I can. But I've probably watched WWE the longest and the most, and it's very clear to me that since uh, since September until probably until January, they just don't care, and that's a problem.
Yeah. And well, hopefully, even with this punk thing, they'll figure it out. Maybe they'll think of something to make us more interested. Uh, but at this point, we'll have to wait and see where CM Punk's second, I guess, WWE run will go.
Yeah,
Um, so we're signing off. I guess, Mike, I guess we do have some plans to maybe do like a year end kind of like best matches of 2023 at some point in the next couple weeks, probably.
yeah. So last year we did our best matches of the year and our best wrestlers of the year. So I assume we're probably just going to do that again. I don't know if Tanner will be joining us for that.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll discuss it offline.
but
Yeah.
yeah, we'll probably our next couple of shows will probably be those two, and then we'll go into 2024.
Yeah. And with that, we're signing off. 2024 will indeed be something to watch. And so, thank you very much for listening. I am the Fantastic, and that was Mike. Um,
Yeah,
Mike,
and
yeah,
just
yeah.
remember to go to our link tree to get all of the ways to watch and listen to the show. Linktree / going over big time podcast. And yeah, just look out for other things that we're doing in the future.
All right. And with that, thank you very much for listening. Have a good day.
All right.